and I
Mhm.
did a cover for How Far I'll Go, the song from the movie. And I was so excited about it because it was just like piano singing, it was so different than the original. And like, I just thought it's a unique choice for me to do. And I sent
Sure.
it to my family and friends, and my dad loved it. And he played it to, some people he knew. And it got to one of the biggest producers, TV producers, and music producers in Israel. She loved me and she wanted me to be on the show.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm great. So sorry about the about being late.
Oh, it's all good. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, so good you having me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. My name's Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music. And we'll talk about the EP you released, and I love the strip
Yes.
versions that you've been putting out as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So Mergui, you born and raised, I see in Tel Aviv, is that correct? Or
Yeah, yeah,
okay, what was that
totally
like?
correct.
Are you in Tel Aviv now,
Uh,
by the way?
no, no, no. I'm in LA right now.
Oh, okay, right on.
How was it like? Yeah, just childhood. I mean, feel like I've been growing up with an amazing family, to be
Mhm.
honest. The more kind of like I grow up, feel like I'm able to see it, that my parents were, you know, the reason that I am who I am today.
Mm,
Um, and that's the biggest part of it for me because we moved from Tel Aviv to kind of like a suburb of Tel Aviv when I
mhm.
was 5, and I grew up in a very special little neighborhood with, you know, uh, a lot of friends. Like everybody knew each other, kind of thing, and I had a great childhood. I don't know how. So I always feel like there might be some things that I might remember that weren't that good, but I always be like, no, I mean, I'm so grateful for my parents and how they, you know, um, raised us. It's me
Yeah.
and my brother. I have a little brother, like 18. He's 18 now. He's not that little anymore. But
Okay. Very, very
yeah.
cool. Did you grow up in, I mean, did you grow up in like a creative household or a musical family? Obviously, your voice is insane and you're a great
Thank
songwriter,
you.
but yeah, I was
Thank
just
you.
curious if that came from, a lineage of people that are musically inclined or how that worked out for you.
So my mom's a singer.
Oh, cool. Okay. There you go.
She is. And my dad is like a branding expert now, but he was a musician too.
Oh,
So I did grow up in a very musical house. Music was always there. I remember sitting on a couch playing songs with a guitar, and yeah, music was always there. I was doing a lot of different stuff. Like sports were a big thing for me. I was a soccer player,
hmm.
like a professional one, as much as you can be in
Wow. Really?
12. When you're 12 years
Okay.
old is like as much as you could be when
Yeah.
you're that
Yeah.
age, but I was in a team and everything, and like one day I just decided not to pursue these as my, like I couldn't imagine myself growing up doing soccer,
Soccer.
and I just pivoted and went dancing.
Oh, really? So it
Yeah,
wasn't even like you pivoted and started doing music full time. It was you did
no,
dancing.
that's the thing. Like music was always there in the background, no matter what I did. So
Mm,
around 13, I think, kind of like with the help of my parents, of course, but I kind of like built a little room studio in
wow.
yeah, in like a just one room of my house back then, uh, our house, and I started producing, writing songs, doing covers, playing on piano, like doing like just experimenting with music, with the world of like endless possibilities. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And yeah, and that's how I really started,
Okay.
being like into music, because I've always been looking at, like watching movies, for example, and focusing on the music, on like strings in movies, and like be like so inspired and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Or I've always like just looked up, on some of my biggest heroes in terms of music, like if it's Michael Jackson or Stevie Wonder or or even more current ones. Like, I don't know, I grew up like listening to Bruno Mars, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber,
Mhm.
um, all of them. But anyway, music was
Yeah.
always there in the background no matter what I did.
Where
And
did you like at an early age? I mean, 13 is still super young to be producing and doing all these things. But prior to that, were you like in piano lessons? It sounded like you played guitar young. Where did you start as far as like an instrument?
mm, so even now, I'm not the greatest piano player. I'm just good enough to be able to write songs with it, you know? But my mom's pianist, when I was very little, uh, gave me, you know, a couple lessons.
Okay.
Uh, and that's how I really started to, you know, at least know what I'm doing when I'm approaching the piano.
Hmm.
But I feel like I was just learning as I, went, and I just started to be good enough to be able to play something and put it on the computer and start producing with it. Yeah, I wasn't good at all when I started, but that's everything you do
Yeah,
in
you
life.
build obviously off
Yeah,
of that. So you started producing and you said covers and even your own songs at 13. And
yeah.
were you in in school, were you in like the orchestra or the band or anything like that? Or was it still you were doing more soccer and just kind of this as a
No, from 13 I stopped with soccer,
oh,
unfortunately.
13 is when you quit. Okay. Yeah, I thought you just dropped the level that you were playing at, but it's okay.
Yeah,
You just went straight. Oh yeah, you said you went to dancing and then this. Okay, sorry.
right. No,
Um
you're good. You shouldn't be already familiar with the whole story. You're good.
but now
Uh,
I'm repeating
but
it back to you and noticing that I screwed that up. But
right.
yeah, so you were you in the orchestra or anything like that or band or
Yeah,
anything like
I
that in school? Chorus,
so
choir?
for high school, I went to a music school, to art school.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
Kind of like left my at that time it was a big drama. Like I left all my friends and the people I knew from where I grew up in, and kind of like drove every morning. I drove like two to 2.5 hours. Uh, I took
Just
a
to go to
bus,
school. Oh
honestly.
my
Took a
gosh.
bus to the art school, and every afternoon I went back. And um I feel, I mean, I just wanted to, I thought I'm gonna learn much more about, like, they had a major called kind of like contemporary, music, like something that is more updated. And I
Yeah,
thought this is
yeah.
what I'm gonna learn, but I ended up learning just, classical theory and stuff like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I mean, theory is
yeah.
always a good thing to know, obviously, when it
Oh
comes to
yeah, and
writing
I
music.
met my best friends there, and it was one of the best decisions I've made.
Yeah.
But
I mean, talk about having supportive parents to be like, yeah, okay, I guess you can go to this school, not only building you this
yeah,
room to write and play in, but to say, yeah, you can go to this school that's 2 hours away and dedication for you as well. Like, I mean, I would probably be like 3 days in, like, ah, I'm done with this 6 hours a day on a bus. Like, is this worth it?
yeah, they were the ones who pushed me in the because they knew I was so passionate about music,
Uh-huh.
and my passion and love for music was very obvious. And they knew there's an opportunity, going to high school to do something like that. And I kind of remember like one conversation, or one of them approached me and said, like, it's time to decide. Like, do you want to learn music that you love so much, or you want to do something else, or like, you should decide right now. And I kind of decided to do that. I went to like an audition for that school, and
Oh, okay. What
uh,
was that like?
it was kind of like the first audition I've ever done. Um, it was Yeah, it was interesting. I felt like very naturally I just enjoyed it. Like I was just it was almost like being on. It's weird because it's more judgmental, uh, like you know, but I felt like it was kind of like a performance,
Mhm.
and after that, so my basically my story. um, and it's it's funny because it involves a much bigger audition.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
because
I saw
it's
the
it's
television show, right?
you're right. Um, like in that room studio that I was creating stuff, I did the. Oh, it's so funny. I just saw that they released the new Moana movie trailer, right?
Yeah, yeah, like the
Uh,
live action one, right? Are
yeah.
they doing live
So
action?
so at that time, it was around the time that the first Moana movie got out, and I
Mhm.
did a cover for "How Far I'll Go," the song from the movie, and I was so excited about it because it was just like piano singing, it was so different than the original, and like I just thought it's a unique choice for me to do, and I sent
Sure.
it to my family and friends, and my dad loved it, and he played it to some people he knew, and it got to one of the biggest producers, TV producers, and music producers in Israel. Uh,
Wow.
and she said she loved me and she wanted me to be on the show. She wanted to start a career in me. She wanted to sign me right away, but she said she basically said, "This is a great start.
Mhm.
Nobody knows you right now. Like we can maybe squeeze you on the show because it was just last minute." And I went to the audition, and my life has changed from from the minute I stepped on the stage, um, completely.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you go on the show and then like obviously you're now being exposed to a massive audience. And then
yeah,
from
like
there, are you like when the show's done, um at that point did you end up winning? I can't
no,
remember.
I ended up second.
Second,
Uh,
that's what it was. I mean, it's pretty much, right? I mean, you're there through the whole show to the end. And then once it's over, do you just have like I mean, does this person end up managing you or like are people contacting you from all over like, hey, like we want to
yeah.
sign you or
No, honestly, it
record
was
with
like
you or
from the first audition for me was already like overwhelming. I remember I couldn't walk the street like all of a sudden, like it was just
whoa. Oh,
weird.
so then people are just like, oh my gosh, Mergui
Yeah,
from the show. Like, I'll get a picture.
yeah. It's so crazy. It was like I don't know 6 years ago, so I always try to remember the first feeling I had, but it was just life changing, I guess, because my life has changed completely after that. I mean, it's just something new to get used to. Um, Now
Yeah, I can't even
it's just
imagine
now
going
it's weird, but
from, one day you're just auditioning for this show or actually just recording the Moana song that ends up landing you on here. And then it's everyone knows who you are. I mean, that's so wild.
yeah, it's wild. And yeah, from like ever since I went like I've been through so much, so it was like ups and downs, and like my perspective about it changed so much since then.
Mhm.
So it's always funny to go back and look at it, but it's yeah, but it was unique, and from there I kind of started my career there,
Mhm. And you
and
put out what, a couple of EPs, right? That were all in Hebrew.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's how I started. Yeah, I started
Yeah.
releasing like my first single there was okay, and then the second single like blew up completely. Like really, everybody knew who I was from that single.
Wow. Were you getting
And
like
then I
radio play and playing like huge concerts there
everything,
and everything?
yeah, everything.
Wow.
It really started my career, and and after that I did a couple EPs, and uh, yeah, I think around 2018,
Mhm.
something like that. I'm the worst at dates and
Oh, good.
years.
Yeah.
I can
No, no.
remember
Yeah.
anything, but it might be around that time where I met Haim Saban here in America,
Mhm.
and you know he really loved my voice. He really loved how I sounded and wanted to sign me into his label. And I started my
Wow.
relationship with with him and with the label that he had at the time. And um, I just started my kind of like my journey to my my biggest dream ever since I remember myself is to do music for the rest of the world. And in English, which is kind of like what I grew up listening to. Like
Mhm.
everything I grew up listening to was in English, and and I always wanted to do something universal like that, you know.
Mhm.
And and I
But
started my journey to potentially cross over and make music to the rest of the world.
was that difficult to do? I mean, to have success, obviously, you had a huge hit in with the songs that you had in Hebrew, and then going to writing songs in English. How was that? Like, that must have been a big challenge, right? I mean, because
It's
everything doesn't
interesting, you know.
translate over perfectly, and also as far as like, especially with like inflections and the way that you would have to write lyrically to make it make sense in the harmony.
So the funny thing is, when I write music, even when I started writing music in Hebrew, when I write music, it's gibberish when I start. So it doesn't have any words, but it always sounds like English because this was my influences. It always sounds like English, so it never felt weird to me. Oh, honestly, it might sound weird, but it was almost easier for me to write in English because if like it fits how I naturally produce the kind of like ideas that I have.
Mhm. Okay, sure.
You know
The
what I mean?
gibberish,
So
like, yeah, when you weren't even writing real words or
some
lyrics,
of
it
some of
almost
my
was.
Hebrew songs, some of my
uh
Hebrew songs actually started sounding like English, and
Interesting.
then I put Hebrew words on top. So my natural kind of like writing process is like that when I kind of like on my mind, and I just throw some random lyrics that doesn't even make sense, but they sound like English. Um, and
Interesting. Yeah, so it
so
made
so
it
it
it wasn't even that difficult then to kind of then at that point
no,
you're already like, "Oh, well,
it
I'm already
felt
kind of
like
halfway there with the English
yeah, yeah. It
inflections."
wasn't difficult at all. It actually felt like home.
That's
Um,
amazing.
because in my little room studio that I told you about, I was always writing songs in English. Uh, started as like trying to mimic, some of the, you know, um, stars that I admired so much.
Did you
But
decide to release I mean, write your first couple of EPs in Hebrew just because it was more of a universal language, or at least was it probably more spoken more where you were at in Tel Aviv, and like to gain that
yeah,
audience of people? Was it like, well, I want to put music out to the people that already know who I am and they're here and they know understand the
yeah,
language?
both that and it's my mother tongue, it's my language.
Yeah.
I couldn't feel more natural singing in that language and to this audience, um, but but when I created songs in English, it didn't feel weird. It's like
Got
kind of
it.
like it coexists.
Hmm.
Uh,
No, 100%. And then you
yeah,
put out songs in English, and they also, I mean, the first one you put out did amazing, right? I mean, Lie Like
what
This,
is
was that the
it?
first single that you put out in
Yeah,
English?
sucks to know you. What was it? It was
Oh,
sucks to know you.
Sucks to know you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just off your Spotify. It shows that Lie Like This was the first one, but Sucks to Know You is obviously a
yeah,
massive,
like this. Sucks
massive
to know you.
one
It was
for
my
you too.
first EP, my first
Yeah.
global EP,
Yeah.
which
Dark
I
Side of the
love
Rainbow.
creating.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. I love Dark
So that
Side of
must
the
have
Rainbow. I
been,
love creating that. I worked with some of my legends like Mike Dean, like I also always love to write and produce with my close friends that are just people that I love working with. This is my dream for my future, honestly, just to be able to make music with people I love the most, no matter who they are. And I did that for my first EP. It was a very big um, kind of like step for me, this EP, because I started learning to tell my story more and write about what I had in life. And I remember this first EP was really about it was a breakup story,
Mhm.
but it was more about me finding myself. And through this EP, like you can listen to it from the beginning until end, it's almost like a full story. And in the end, it's like Paradise, the song Paradise, which I I kind of like leave something behind
Mhm.
and open the door to a new chapter. And yeah, and that kind of like I kind of like left the door open to do something completely different in the future. And
Yeah.
now I release Shadows of Blue,
Mhm.
and it's completely different. It's exactly what I envisioned. It's something
Amazing. Yeah.
else, uh, and I've
So
grew up so much, but yeah.
so going, yeah, you kind of almost were able to pick up you first, yeah, you with Paradise, you kind of knew like, okay, I'm gonna leave the door open. So, but obviously I'm gonna keep moving forward, and then whatever happens, I'm able to kind of pick up where that EP almost left off in a way. Well, talk to me about the new one. Like going into that, like, were you able to work with some of the same people, or was it like a totally new blank slate? Like, let's go into this with a different approach.
No, I did got the opportunity to work with some of some of the most amazing people I've ever been in contact with, like David Foster, for example.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
Legend.
produced "Look Easy" with me. It's one of the songs in the EP, and
Yeah.
um,
Wow.
even
What
if
was it
I
like
haven't,
working with him? I mean, that guy is just so he's such a huge, I mean, the guy's like a star on the Hollywood Walk of
I don't
Fame.
even know how I felt. I mean, I was just like in a dream when we had the session. Like honestly, I mean, we stayed in touch after, and we saw each other for a couple of times after that, um and now it's different. But then it was the first time we met, first time we had a session, and it was almost like being in his concert when he played. It was like amazing. I mean, he's such a legend, and everything he created was had so much impact on the whole world that is hard to grasp. And also, um, I think he haven't been in the studio for 6 or something years producing something for somebody, and was so like I was so grateful that he decided to do that with me. Like I was
Wow.
like,
Oh,
what?
so he was kind of he hadn't worked with anyone for a while, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
come back and do this." Whoa. I mean,
yeah.
that's huge, right?
Yeah, it's huge. I don't think I've ever really kind of like took it in completely. I'm still like in the dream. That's how I
Sure.
feel at least.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and also Cry in these albums are like I took a melody from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by
Mhm.
Elton John,
Yeah.
and when I wrote it with the producer, we kind of like we didn't know if we even have the like if we can use the melody. We just wrote the song. We said we'll deal with it later, and we sent the demo to Elton, and he um he replied after a few weeks and said, "What an amazing song! What a great voice! I approve."
Oh my
Uh, so
gosh.
he literally allowed me to use the melody, and that was even crazier. Like, I
I was
mean,
gonna say, yeah, to have him co-sign what you're doing and even reply. I mean, how many people have probably sent him songs being like, "Oh, hey, do you mind if I
right?
utilize some
No,
piece that you wrote?"
I literally don't know how that happened, and I had so many little expectations. Honestly, I was like, I mean, he doesn't know who I am, so I, I mean, it's not like where I'm from. It's like I'm starting something from zero. I'm not expecting anybody to know me or any one of the songs
Mhm.
from the get go. And when I sent in the song, I had so many little expectations, and then he replied. What he replied, and after that, he invited me to his party, the Oscar party, and I met him backstage, and he told me he liked the song, and like such a legend, such a
Yeah.
crazy story for me to remember. I'll remember that for the rest of my life for sure.
Oh my gosh. Going into this EP, did you know that you were gonna was it gonna be you knew it was gonna be a project, or did you write, I mean, was there one of the songs that you had written and you're like, okay, like I know this is gonna kind of come together and be a cohesive piece?
Yeah, I mean, for me in this EP, it actually started with the production of "Look Easy" with David Foster, and then I kind of
Okay.
like I felt like I was like onto something in terms of like the lane and the style that I felt like. okay, this is me. It feels like, you know, it feels like me writing about my life, but at the same time, it's something unique with strings and stuff that I've grew up on. Like, remember I told you I watched movies and
You
I
would listen to the strings.
yeah, and I kind of like brought it back in this EP right now. And it felt like a full circle, kind of like project for me.
Mm,
Because I've always also tried to be unique enough for myself to be not bored, and
right,
also
right.
just enjoying it fully, like saying, okay, this is something that can make impact in the world and give inspiration to people. Like it's something that, um I remember myself listening to songs like that, or just music like that, where I've never heard before, and I was and it changed my life completely. So I wanted to be able to make something like that. I'm not saying I'm not created something that there's nothing like in the whole world. Maybe there is, but that was my intention, and I felt like um, Look Easy was a great um, start for me to realize what I should do in order to make that. And
Mhm.
after that, Happy Now came into the picture, and
That's a huge
start
record, yeah.
yeah, thank you. And I started writing songs like "Don't Let Me Wake Up" or "On My Way Up," which were all songs that really talked about something, you know, dear to me, like a concept that I've always wanted to talk about. For example, "Don't Let Me Wake Up" is about um, just people that I can't afford to lose, people that I'm grateful to say I have a bunch of those in my life where I can imagine my life without, and it's about the fear of losing them. Or Cry is about my family and friends, the things that I care about the most, the people that I care about the most. Is about vulnerability, and letting them have the safe space to be vulnerable with me, and the opposite. um or On My Way Up, which is about my career and actually my life in general, and the ups and downs, and taking, kind of like bad situations and turn them into opportunities. And I felt like with this EP, I learned to talk about my life more than I've been able to do it in the past, you know?
Yeah, and I think when at least a lot of artists that I've spoke to said, like, you write those songs that you think are only gonna be personal to you and your experience in your life, but
Yeah,
when you share them to the world, so many people have had that same exact,
right.
circumstance or
The
something
best thing
happened.
about music.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, like, you just told my story in a way
Right.
I could never do that." I think that's so cool, and it's like you the more vulnerable you can get or the more direct, it's almost like more people kind of,
I
can
think
resonate with that, and they know, like, that feeling or have that same feeling, but you just put it into words.
I think this is the best thing about music, honestly, is making people feel, it's almost healing, like making people feel like they're not alone. And even if I wrote about something that is like close to me, as long as I feel so close to it myself, I know that other people can.
Mhm.
Um, in their own story, like they can literally understand something completely different than what I intended it to be. But it doesn't matter. This is what music is about. It's about bringing people together, no matter where you're from, no matter what you believe in. I mean, we're all humans, and you know, for example, like I think one of the most powerful like experiments for any artist is like being on stage, seeing thousands of people, different kind of people, from different sides of the world, together and singing the same lyrics. It's like
Mhm.
something that, it's such a crazy experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I can't even imagine what that has to feel like. That's so and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have songs that I could, there's songs that I resonate with so much, and you're like, that person's telling my story, yet you've never even met that person. And that's what I think is so
Yeah.
wild. Like, somebody that doesn't know you at all could listen to Cry and be like, oh my gosh, like, Mergui is just telling
Right.
I feel this exact same way. I wish if I could put it into words, it would have been done, that way or whatever.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, if I could just change somebody's life for, for so little, like if I could just make somebody smile, just have one smile a day, I've done my work. This is, I mean, I'm done. Like, I mean, and this is what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm just trying to give people, because that makes me happy,
Hmm.
because it makes me happier the more, and it's just a win-win. I write about my life. It's the biggest therapy for me. So I write about my life. I share my stories. I get to reflect and and be better and better each day with writing these songs. And then I also get to help people and like make them feel like they can see their story in it. So what's better?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I love the strip versions that you're doing with all these songs as well. I think that's such a cool
Yeah,
thing that
thank
you're
you.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was important for me to make I've never done like an acoustic EP or acoustic album to an album that I've released, and
Hmm.
this is the first one, and it was really just organic. Like we just performed the songs, and they're actually like you can watch the videos of it, on YouTube. It's like you
Yeah,
see
that's
it's
just a
just we
live
really
take,
perform.
right?
Yeah, it's just a
Yeah,
live
that's
take
huge.
with some of my best people who my band, people that I've enjoyed playing with, and we're family right now, so it's just um it was very natural to me and to us to create something like that, because for some of these songs, this is how they started. This is how
Hmm.
we started writing them.
Hmm.
More like with just piano singing, like guitar singing, and
And you
then it
add
got
it,
more
yeah, you add the
produced. Yeah.
production and everything else to it. I love it, man.
So it's good for me to just show people how it started and how it's done.
Love it, man. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, man, for doing
Thank
this.
you. Oh my
Uh,
God.
I do have
So,
one more question for you before I let you
yes,
get
hit
back to
me.
life. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Well, I'm still learning myself. I don't know if I'm in a place where I can actually give an advice, but I think what I'm learning more and more as I go is like to clean up all the noise. So much noise today with social media and like expectations and judgments and stuff like that. And I'm trying to clean the noise and focus on who I really am and be myself. So I think if I could just say something to anybody, really, not even artists,
Hmm.
is trying to be yourself, trying to find who you really are, and not trying to be somebody else. Because if you're gonna fail, at least you gave it a honest try on being yourself and not somebody else.